Hi, I'm TanZhiJian, and I'll be talking about my web API assignment. For our web API assignment, we had to incorporate two APIs that we found on the web to create a solution on the web that allows users to interact with the UI and save data into a database. So from here, we'll be walking through firstly the server side, where we can see that we have multiple functions that can be called. Firstly, we'll be using book APIs to retrieve information about a book and be displayed on the table. Right. Firstly, we will query the Google Book API from using a title that we received from the URL. This is because the Google Book API will be used to query for the ISBN of the book, since our second query string does not support querying using book titles, so we will have to throw a ISBN number at the second API. So in order to do this, first we'll call the Google API to get the ISBN from here using this, save it into a variable, and then we will pass that variable to our second query string, Open Library, to check the ISBN and retrieve data. So regarding the data, if we look at our book.js object, we've defined a schema with title, author, publisher, published, which is basically the year that it was published, number of pages, URL, and cover for the book. And then this will also connect to our database, which has this database string including our username and user password, and it will be put into the book collection. Additionally, we also have two more functions where we can query the database to find all the books as well as delete books from the database. This is very similar to our lab exercise. If we go ahead and debug this server application, start without debugging, we should then be able to access our Postman, type in localhost get a book, and for example search up a title such as slow reading. It would then tell us that our book is added successfully. If we then go to MongoDB, sign in, alright, now that we're back and into our database, we can see, if we go into our collections, that the data we've previously entered should hopefully be here. So we can see our newest entry with the new object ID with the title slow reading, author, publishers, the published date, number of pages, URL, and our cover page. So from this we can see that our server side is working. If we stop this and then we go ahead and run our program including our client, let's go into our command prompt, and then npm run dev. It should start both our server side and our client side. Alright, now that we're back and looking at our pages, we can see our general layout of the page, which with the title saying it's book, and we can insert a book title to search for the book information. This search bar allows users to type in the title for the book, and then when we hit submit, it will run the two APIs and save the data into our table over here. We already have records from before, and this is perfect, so we can demonstrate deleting the records. So let's get rid of all the records real quick, and if we type in a name such as Percy Jackson's Lightning Thief, the the program will query and then add in all the informations here. Additional functions allow us to also adjust the size of each column to match, so we can see all the details. We can also select which page we want to visit if we have multiple data in our database, as well as how many rows to display per page. So this will create more. Additionally, since we have the book URL saved provided by the API, we can also click Visit Page, which will redirect us to the Open Libraries page with more information regarding the book. So how does this all happen in the back end? This is mostly done through our client. So in our client folder, we have a app.js, which is what is used to render our page, as well as control all the functions that happens. We're using React table. And firstly, we will be getting all the books so it can be displayed on our database with error handling. And then when we hit the submit button, we will conduct the query with the URL /getBook and book title with what the user has inputted into the search field. If the book is not found, then we will log that the book is not found, and the user will get an alert pop up saying that there was an error trying to retrieve the book. And then once we delete a record, we'll just run the command that we've seen in the server side, where we delete the book according to the title. This render basically allows us to render the page, and from here on, it's things regarding the UI. So first, we'll set the data from the state we've called earlier, and we will be having the div for the book and book title. And then this part is basically the code which allows us to search for information. Then we have another container for our React table, and the React table basically allows us to define headers and what it's going to be called. We can use header styles to control the color of the header cells. Accessor is the name used to access data from the data object, and these are all our columns in the table. So in order to put a URL that the user can enter, we first use the accessor to access the URL class, and then we create a cell that returns a div holding a hyperlink using the link that we've obtained from the data. And the book cover basically returns an image using the source as the link provided by the data again. And for our delete column, we have a text saying delete, and when we click on this link, it deletes the record with the current value, which is the title, since we're accessing the title. So it will pass that to delete record, which will run delete book and delete our book from the database. Alright, so throughout this project, I've learned not only how to obtain data from an API, but also how to incorporate the data into creating applications with UIs for our web deployment. While initially it was hard to understand the inner workings of all these processes, for example, the npm installs, how to call how to have when the program runs in order to execute all our files, we had to edit the package.json, and all these stuff was quite confusing. But once I started playing around with it, it was a very interesting experience, because seeing how we're able to pull data and store it in an online database service such as MongoDB, and how to manipulate that data. Even though it was my first foray into web APIs, it was truly an enlightening experience into building more robust solutions through the use of publicly available services. So, thank you for your time looking at this project.